complex and changing environment that we need to project into the future and see signals and see new behaviors that are coming tomorrow. So there are two main questions that we are asking ourselves. It's thinking about the human is enough, or we need to look into a broader aspect of it, looking into what is surrounding these people, and also looking into I can say the present is enough, as we are living in a constantly changing environment. What I'm talking about today, I'm not a specialist. It's just a few topics that I've been reading about for the past, I think, since the pandemic, for the past couple of years, and that I'm really interested about. So it's more like I'm sharing some knowledge that I'm not like a super expert on it, but it really made me think, and I hope it makes you think too. So I'm going to talk about three different things, capabilities, approaches that help us overcome the limitations of thinking only about the present user. The first one is about futures literacy, which is it's kind of a trendy topic nowadays in the design world, which it is actually like a capability. I have the capability of futures literacy, which means that I can imagine what might happen in the future, and that helps me to create a better product today. So it's with the, for example, climate change, the pandemic, the economic crisis, social exclusion, racism, all those problems, we saw that we need to foster and to bring more inspiring futures in order to project new realities. So that is a capability that companies are really looking into, because it helps us to not only reduce risk for a product that we're putting to the market, but also bring hope and inspire people to project new things. So that is an approach that UNESCO is really working on in the last decade, and it helps us to be more innovative, to make better choices, to be a better leader, to bring up strategy, to bring up agility, confidence, capability, and knowledge. And I really like the word resilience, because it helps us going through time and go into this future. So this is the first point that I would like to share with you. It's basically the capability to imagine and to project ourselves when we are making our decisions, and when we are projecting a new product or a new service, or I don't know, anything that we are creating right now. How can we bring up, how can we imagine circumstances, for example? What might help us think about that is the question that we use a lot in design, asking ourselves, like, what if we had superpowers? What if we could, I don't know, we could bring AI into that solution? We start to project ourselves and be really creative into projecting new scenarios, so that we can be more resilient and more innovative within our design process. Another approach, which is pretty obvious, but it helps us think a little bit outside the human spectrum, which is an approach called planet-centered design, in parallel with the human-centered design. That companies are really starting to look into, because we all know that we need to be more ecologic in general. So when we look into people, we are often forgetting what is around people. So this approach actually brings the planet at the same levels as individuals. So it's not an anti-human approach, but it puts humans and the planet in the same need, in the same like level, because we know we are in a really dramatic state where we have a climate crisis, we have a lot of problems that we are not always looking into. So when we I think for me, actually, design is a lot about impact. So when we project anything, we need to look into what is the impact of it, and not only looking to people, but now also looking to a broader context, which means our planet. How can we preserve it? How can we be sustainable? How can we help people also develop new behaviors in order to um, be more sustainable in general? So here we have a few movements of the planet-centric design that we can bring within our creative process. So we can start from humans to planets, from quantity to quality, from short term to long term, and from market fit to planet fit. Of course, when we are talking about a business, we still have to bring up the business perspective, but how can we conciliate both point of views in order to create things that are not only meaningful to people, but also coherent uh, with the planet? And with that, we have a lot of responsibility when we are creating. So we have to be responsible. We have to be accountable for what we put into the world. We have to bring a systemic approach because we live into complex systems. And one thing, like, for example, I can do something that can affect another person or another environment. So we need to understand this connection and look into the systemic point of view. And we also need to be transparent, because we are always talking about how to be transparent, how to be open, how to show people the processes and the system. And this is not only so that they can understand, but that they also have the power and the knowledge to detain information. That is really important for us to create a more inclusive and a more responsible design, a more responsible creation solution. So that is my the second thing that I wanted to talk about, which is planet-centered design after futures literacy. And the last one that I would like to share is the one that I have more information about, and it's the one that I find the most complete and also the most interesting, and it's called society-centered design. It is actually a manifest by an agency called if. I don't know if you ever heard about, but they basically did this manifest, I think last year or 2 years ago during the pandemic, and they call it society-centered design, which brings a new approach. It's not the human, it's not planet, but we are looking into society. What they criticize about human-centered design is basically the same thing I told you about. For example, they say that the human-centered design is basically an approach from the 20th century, 21st century, sorry, 20th centuries, yeah. And then people are changing, we are constantly changing, and that approach basically looking to people as individuals, as consumers, and they do not consider people in relation to their communities or to wider society. So society by itself is actually not seen by designers, because we are looking to build things for consumers. And also when we see like LGBT frameworks or protection frameworks, we see that they are always looking into human rights and humans as individuals. And what they are bringing up in this new approach is the society, which means designing for society. It's designing for a broader context of systems that we impact and shape. Because as I said, when I'm creating something for someone, this someone, they might live in a certain context, they might interact with certain people, they might be in a danger zone, they might be in a community that is excluded from the others. So how can we look into society and not the majority of people when we are designing? I I can bring an example for so that it's easier to understand. You know those electric bikes, or I don't know how to say patinete in English, uh, or even scooters in Europe. They're using a lot of scooters, electric scooters that you can just leave it anywhere. So when we project those things, we said, "Oh, that's awesome! We can leave it anywhere in the street. I can take whatever I want and leave in the middle of the street next to my work." And actually, we didn't think that it's now causing a lot of accidents. People are parking anywhere. Bikes are getting broken, and it's causing a lot of problems, but not regarding the user, because the user is super happy that he can do just like the value proposition of the product does. So, which means take it wherever you need it and leave it wherever you need it. So, but we didn't think about how it might affect other people or even the public streets. So, how could we make ride-share scooters for the wider society as well for the riders? Here's an example that we could make docks where we could park those scooters or the bikes or the patinettes, I don't know. But that could also be standardized so that any scooter or any bike could be able to park there. So that is a safe storage, is a safe way to charge the vehicle. And it also does, it's a solution that is thinking about the whole environment and people that might be around the user and not only the user. So in order to be able to think within a society-centered design approach, they also build a few principles that help us think about it. And now I'm going to share with you. The first one is, in order to build something that is meaningful for the society, that makes sense, and that we can that is also sustainable, we need to put care first. So that it has a lot to do with empathy. So care lets us deliver for public health and for the planet through compassion and reciprocity. So how can we put care first when we are projecting, when we are thinking, when we are making decisions? The second one is to earn trust. When we say trust, it's also about the thing that we said, to be transparent, to be cohesive, and to be open, resilient, and to promote citizen empowerment. Because when we give information, when we create systems, we earn trust with people. Then we have to empower collective agency. That means basically starting with the radical inclusion of the most vulnerable. That means we are often looking into the majority when we are designing, even though we work with frameworks such as personas or things like that. We are looking to the majority of people that we are going to interact with. And when we say about, when we talk about empower the collective, it means to look into the most vulnerable people and include them into this many opportunity that we are giving. Then we have design for people's right. That is kind of obvious, but we are talking here a lot about privacy. because nowadays it's a kind of a trendy topic. So privacy is a human right. We must create systems that remove the imbalance of power and instead promote equity and citizen empowerment. Then we have redistribute the power of technology. This is not that obvious because we often think that technology is power, and that enables us to do a lot of things, but actually many of us do not have access to technology. So how can design redistribute the power for citizen empowerment and equity? So how might we again bring up those most vulnerable people and distribute this technology to them and bring up equity within our system? Then we have to ensure fair and just oversight. This is really basic because without fairness and justice, we cannot have equity. So how can we bring up this fairness and justice in our decision process in order to not look into the majority, as I said, and instead of it, look at the commons, as they talk a lot about the commons, but it's basically when we talk about the community, we as a whole, within our environment, within our context, and within our differences too. Then we have to create compassion at scale. So this is really specific. They talk actually about AI, which artificial intelligence, that basically nowadays we are talking a lot about it, but we are basically using it to scale business, to scale automation, to scale technical opportunities. But actually, we have a great opportunity to bring AI and to reshape AI so that it can create equity again and reinforce civic commons. And of course, this at the last, we have to be able to still have power. So people must be in control always, even though we are talking about an artificial intelligence. Then we have design for generative action, and that is mostly talking about sustainability and regenerative design and business models so that we can be sustainable and bring up topics such as climate change, such as ecology, and such as health also, and also look again, focus on our planet, which is also a big topic when we're talking about society-centered design. It's not only about humanity, it's not only about community, but it's also about the planet. And I think the last one is to confront uncertainty. This brings up basically what we already said, that we are living into a really volatile world. Everything is changing. Everything is changing really fast. And we need to be bold about our decisions. We need to project ourselves into the future. We need to act boldly and act confident too in order to make things happen. So we need to put ourselves into that position, thinking about all those topics and bringing up the society, bringing up the planet, bringing up our systemic point of view into our creation and decision-making process. So how might we bring up that topic in our day-to-day lives? We can ask ourselves, how might we give people more rights and capabilities? How might we create shared resources that strengthen our communities? How might we protect the safety and improve the physical and mental health of communities? How might we design products, service, and standards that are fair to everyone, not just the most privileged? And how might we better care for our world? So this is a few questions that when we are bringing up a project to life, that we can start asking ourselves in order to think outside the box. And in conclusion, I think I'm in time, yes. I'm not saying, oh my God, human-centered design is outdated. No, it's not outdated at all. I'm just bringing here some provocation to think outside of the blocks, not only to think about the individuals, but bring new perspective and new questionings to enrich our products development, because we need to think about humans, of course, but we need to think about humans within their context and thinking about all that it might affect surrounding him, so that we are able to create for people, for the society, and also for the planet. And that's it. Thank you.